People always said we looked perfect together. When Eric and I walked into a room, we turned heads. Him in his tailored suit, confident and charming, and me smiling quietly beside him. To everyone else, we were the couple people envied, successful, beautiful, stable. But perfection is just a reflection. Glossy, fragile, and so easy to crack. I met Eric 3 years ago at a charity event. He was magnetic, the kind of man who made everyone feel like they were the only one in the room. I was working the event, organizing donations and guests, not dressed to impress, just doing my job. But he noticed me. At least that's what I thought. Back then, I believed his attention meant something pure, that he liked me for who I was. Simple, calm, unpolished. I never realized he saw me more like a project than a person. In the beginning, things were good. He was attentive, generous, full of plans. He talked about our future, our house, our life. I thought we wanted the same things. But slowly the language changed. "You should start dressing like the women I work with," he'd say lightly, adjusting a strand of my hair. Or, "Maybe take a course, something to improve your posture. You hunch when you walk." The first time he said it, I laughed. The 10th time, I didn't. I started noticing the little things he didn't say. When I told a story and his smile faded halfway through. When he introduced me as my fiancée Amelia, but never looked proud saying it. When his compliments turned into corrections. Still, I convinced myself it was love, that he just wanted me to fit in with his world. After all, he was ambitious and I was ordinary. At least that's what he made me believe. Our home reflected him, modern, cold, spotless. Not a single photo on the walls, no hint of color. Sometimes I wondered if he even noticed how lifeless it all felt. He liked control, order, silence. And I gave him all three. Every morning he'd check his reflection before leaving for work, adjusting his cufflinks like he was preparing for a spotlight. I'd kiss him goodbye and he'd smile, that polite, distracted smile he gave everyone. Then the door would close and I'd sit at the kitchen table surrounded by quiet. People said I was lucky, that I'd won the jackpot. But I couldn't remember the last time I felt lucky. One night, as we prepared for another company gala, he looked at me for a long moment. "Try not to wear that color," he said. "It's not sophisticated enough." He didn't sound cruel, just detached, like he was rearranging furniture. I nodded, pretending it didn't sting. In his world, everything had to look perfect, including me. But what no one saw was how fragile that perfection really was. How one night, one unexpected moment, would shatter the image he built and reveal the truth beneath it. The company's annual gala was one of those nights everyone anticipated for weeks. Champagne, glitter, photographs that would be all over social media by morning. For Eric, it wasn't just a party. It was an opportunity. He'd been talking about it for days. The people he needed to impress, the conversations that could change his career. For me, it was something else entirely. Another night of pretending. He chose my dress himself, a sleek black gown that looked beautiful but didn't feel like me. Classic elegance, he called it. I called it camouflage. By the time we arrived, I already felt out of place. The ballroom shimmered with gold light and glass. Laughter rose like music, expensive and practiced. I followed behind him, smiling at strangers, nodding when they spoke. He thrived in that world, confident, charming, the perfect image of success. I stood beside him, a quiet accessory. As he talked to his colleagues, I noticed the small glances he gave me, not affectionate but measured, as if he were checking to make sure I didn't say or do the wrong thing. Each smile he gave others was brighter than the ones he gave me. During dinner, I sat beside a woman who worked with him, beautiful, sharp, the kind of woman who looked perfectly at home in a place like this. She asked me where I worked, and when I told her I managed a small community art program, her polite smile faltered for half a second. Before I could explain, Eric laughed lightly and said, "Amelia's more of a creative soul. She's not into the corporate world." It sounded harmless to anyone else, but I heard what he really meant. She doesn't belong here. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of polite conversation and the soft sting of embarrassment. I smiled, nodded, and pretended I didn't feel the distance growing between us. Later, when we finally left, the silence in the car was deafening. The city lights flickered across his face, cool, detached, perfect. "You were quiet tonight," he said finally. I didn't have much to say. "You should try to be more engaging," he replied, his voice even. You're sweet, but sometimes I think you're just too ordinary. The words landed softly, but they cut deep. He didn't say them with anger, not even cruelty, just honesty, as if he were describing the weather. I turned to look out the window so he wouldn't see my eyes. Ordinary. That word echoed in my chest all the way home. He hummed along to the radio, oblivious, while I stared at the reflection of my face in the dark glass. Flawless makeup, perfect dress, the picture of someone who was supposed to be loved. But in that reflection, all I could see were the cracks forming underneath. When we got home, he kissed me on the cheek before heading to his office, already on his phone, already back in his world. And I stood in the hallway surrounded by silence, realizing how small I'd become inside the space we called love. That night I lay awake in the dark, my engagement ring glinting faintly under the lamp. For the first time I wondered if the man beside me loved me, or just the version of me he built to make himself look complete. And deep down I knew something was about to break. The days after the gala felt heavier than they should have. Eric acted as if nothing had happened, as if his words that night had been harmless, something I should have forgotten by morning. He brought me flowers 2 days later, not out of apology but out of routine. That was how he solved things, surface-level gestures that didn't reach the heart. One evening while I was reading on the couch, he walked in with that confident stride of his, adjusting his watch like he was preparing for a presentation. "Get ready," he said. "We're having dinner with Mr. Harris tomorrow night, my boss." He smiled the way people do when they're proud of something they've earned. "This could be big for me," he added. "So please look your best and don't say too much." He values composure. That last part stung more than it should have. But I simply nodded. It was easier than arguing. The next day I spent too long choosing a dress. I didn't want to look like I was trying too hard, but I also didn't want to embarrass him. I settled on a soft cream dress, simple but elegant, something that felt like me, not like his version of me. The restaurant was one of those places where the walls glowed with gold light, and the air smelled faintly of champagne and money. Every plate was a work of art, every voice a performance. When we arrived, Mr. Harris was already there. A tall man with graying hair and kind eyes that didn't match the sharp suit he wore. He stood as we approached, smiling warmly. But then something strange happened. The moment his eyes met mine, his smile froze. For a heartbeat, he just stared, as if trying to place me. Then his expression softened with quiet recognition. "Amelia," he said slowly, his voice filled with disbelief. I blinked, confused. "Yes." He laughed under his breath, still staring at me like he was seeing a ghost from another life. "You won't remember me," he said. "But a few years ago I lost my job. I used to sit at that little cafe near your art studio. You were the one who always brought me tea when it rained, even when I couldn't pay for it." The memory rushed back. The man in the corner with tired eyes and a briefcase full of unpaid bills. I had never known his name. For a moment the entire table went silent. Eric looked from him to me, his confident posture faltering slightly. Mr. Harris smiled wider, genuine and warm. "I never forgot that kindness," he said. "It meant more than you knew." The waiter appeared, breaking the tension, but something in the room had shifted. For the rest of the evening Mr. Harris spoke mostly to me, asking about my work, my art, my views. His tone was interested, not polite. And for the first time in a long while I felt seen, not as Eric's fiancé, not as someone's accessory, but as myself. Eric tried to interrupt once or twice, but his usual confidence cracked just slightly each time Mr. Harris turned the conversation back toward me. By the end of dinner, Mr. Harris said, almost casually, "You know, Eric, they say you can tell a lot about a man by the woman beside him. I'd say you've been very fortunate." Eric forced a smile, but I could see the flicker of discomfort behind his eyes. For the first time, he was the one who didn't fit in. When we left the restaurant, the night air felt lighter. He didn't say much in the car, just silence, sharp and cold. But I didn't mind it this time, because deep down I knew the balance had shifted. The man who once made me feel small had just watched his world tilt in a way he didn't understand, and it was only the beginning. The morning after the dinner, the house felt strangely still. Eric left early, claiming he had an important follow-up meeting with Mr. Harris. His tone was clipped, controlled, the way he sounded when something wasn't going the way he planned. I made coffee and sat by the window, watching the gray sky stretch across the city. The night before kept replaying in my head. The look on Mr. Harris's face when he recognized me, the warmth in his voice, the way he'd said my name like it meant something. For the first time in years I felt visible. By noon Eric returned. He walked in without his usual energy, dropped his briefcase a little too hard, and loosened his tie. He didn't speak right away. Finally he said, "That dinner last night went differently than I expected." I said nothing. He continued, "Mr. Harris called me this morning. He said I should learn from you. From you, Amelia. He said you reminded him of why he started his business in the first place: honesty, empathy, humility." He actually used those words. He laughed once, short and humorless. I told him you were just being yourself. And he said, "Exactly." I could hear the bitterness creeping into his voice. It wasn't that he was angry at me, not really. He was angry at what I represented. Something he couldn't control. For years, Eric had built his life like a presentation slide. Perfect fonts, clean lines, no room for error. And now, in a single dinner, that perfection had been interrupted by something he couldn't polish: sincerity. He paced the room for a while, muttering about how Mr. Harris didn't understand professionalism anymore. How this would blow over. I just watched him, the man who once felt larger than life now shrinking inside his own reflection. When his phone buzzed again, he froze. The message was short, but I could see it on his screen. "Eric, I've been reconsidering the leadership restructure. We'll discuss next week. MH. He turned off his phone, set it down slowly, and looked at me. "This is your fault," he said quietly. The words didn't sting like they used to. They just floated past me. Because deep down I knew the truth. What happened wasn't my fault. It was his mask finally cracking under the weight of its own perfection. That night he barely spoke. He worked late in his office, the light seeping under the door like a thin, tired line. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, realizing how long I'd lived in that kind of half-light, dim, controlled, never fully warm. Before I fell asleep, I thought of Mr. Harris again. His kindness. The way he'd said, "You can tell a lot about a man by the woman beside him." And for the first time I didn't wonder what that said about Eric. I wondered what it said about me. Because maybe I wasn't ordinary after all. Maybe I had simply been standing next to someone who needed me to believe that I was. A week passed, and the air in the apartment grew heavier with every silence. Eric barely looked at me now. He came home late, spoke little, and moved through rooms like a ghost clinging to whatever was left of his control. I stopped asking about work, but I didn't need to. The phone calls I heard from his office were enough. Raised voices, short sentences, doors slamming after each call. The image he built so carefully was starting to crack, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. One evening I walked past the living room and heard him say, "I don't need a lesson in character, Mark. I need results." Then silence. Then a sound I'd never heard from him before. A quiet, defeated sigh. Later that night he found me in the kitchen. He stood there for a moment, leaning against the counter, his face drawn, eyes tired. The sharpness was gone. "You don't understand," he said finally. "I worked for this my whole life. Everything I've built, it was for respect. For people like him to see me." I looked at him, and for the first time I didn't see a villain. I saw a man who had confused admiration for love and control for stability. But pity wasn't love, and I had nothing left to give. "You wanted to be seen," I said quietly, "but you never looked at me." He didn't answer. He just turned away like he always did when the truth was too close. A few days later, his name was removed from the company's website. New management. A strategic restructure. Mr. Harris had moved fast. Eric didn't say a word about it, but the silence was confirmation enough. That night I packed. Not angrily, just quietly. A suitcase, some clothes, my sketchbooks. Things that still belonged to me. He watched from the doorway, expression blank. "So you're leaving?" he said flatly. "I already left," I replied. He nodded once like he'd been expecting it. Maybe he knew it was the only ending we had left. When I closed the door behind me, I didn't look back. The hallway felt longer than ever, but each step was lighter than the last. Outside, the city was alive, cars, rain, distant voices, and for the first time in years I was part of it again. I rented a small studio a month later and started working with Mr. Harris's foundation, teaching art to kids who'd forgotten how to believe in themselves. They reminded me of something I'd lost long ago: the beauty of being ordinary, and how much strength there is in kindness that asks for nothing in return. Sometimes on quiet evenings I still think about Eric, not with hate but with understanding. He built a world of mirrors and called it success. I broke one and found myself in the reflection. I'm no longer the girl who needed to fit someone's idea of perfection. I'm the woman who walked away from it and learned that being real is worth more than being admired. And that finally was enough.